I used to believe that loyalty would be enough. That if you gave without asking, showed up without complaint, one day, it would be returned. I held on to that belief until the afternoon I opened an old folder in my parents' kitchen. It was a Sunday, like every other Sunday. I stopped by their house in Salem, Oregon, just like I had for years. My mother, Evelyn, wasn't great with technology, so I usually helped her with bills, organizing files, scanning documents. It was routine. It was expected. That house, the 2-story red brick home I had helped renovate tile by tile, had been part of my life for over a decade. I had poured more money into it than I ever had into myself. "Can you take a look at this for me?" she asked, handing me a mess of paperwork before heading out to water her orchids. I sat at the dining table and began sorting through the stack. Credit card bills, receipts, a utility shut-off notice they hadn't mentioned, and then, at the very bottom, a thick cream-colored envelope labeled in bold font, "Estate Plan and Will." I froze. I wasn't trying to snoop, not really. But I had always been the one worrying about things like this: insurance renewals, emergency contacts, backup plans. So I opened it, just to make sure everything was in order. But what I saw made the air leave my lungs. Every single asset this house, worth nearly $500,000, the savings account, the stuff I helped them buy, even my mother's wedding ring, was to go to my younger sister, Megan. My name wasn't mentioned at all, except for one sentence: "We love both our daughters." That was it. I stared at the page, my hands trembling. Every memory of driving through storms to bring them medicine, of paying off credit cards, of fixing broken faucets, all of it evaporated in that moment. Like my existence had been reduced to a footnote. Like I had been nothing more than a useful ghost. I heard the sliding door open behind me. My mother's footsteps were soft, but I didn't move. "Rachel, did you find the bank statement?" she asked, casually. I stood up, will in hand, and turned to face her. My voice was steady, almost eerily calm. "Is this real?" I asked. Her eyes shifted. She didn't even need to look at the document to know what I was holding. "Oh, Rachel, that's just something we put together a while ago. It's not final." "What does it mean?" I interrupted, my throat tightening. "What does it mean that I'm not in this at all?" Before she could answer, my father, Gary, walked in from the living room, coffee mug in hand. He set it down with a sigh, as if preparing to talk about the weather. "You don't need to react like this," he said, almost annoyed. "You're doing well. Megan, she still needs time to figure things out." I let out a laugh. It wasn't joyful, it was hollow. "She's 30, I said. "She hasn't kept a job for more than 3 months. She borrows money to pay her phone bill. I'm the one who's been paying your mortgage the last 3 years. I'm the one who fixed your roof last winter. I'm the one who kept this house from falling apart." My mother stepped closer, placing her hand gently over mine, as if her touch would make it all okay. "Don't overthink this," she whispered. "We just wanted Megan to feel secure." I pulled my hand away. "Secure? What about me? The one who's been holding this place together while she bounces around like it's all a game." They didn't respond. I placed the will back on the table with a quiet finality, like setting down the terms of surrender in a war one never asked to fight. "Thanks," I said, "for showing me where I really stand." Then I picked up my coat, walked to the door, and didn't look back. No one stopped me. No one even called out my name. 2 weeks passed. And no calls, no texts, nothing. It was as if I had never existed in that house, the same house I had once dropped everything to save more times than I could count. The first told myself they just needed time, that they were embarrassed or unsure how to reach out. But instead of an apology or even an acknowledgement, what I received was a text from my father. "Rachel, this month's mortgage is due. Can you transfer it by Friday?" I stared at the message, frozen. No mention of the will, no checking in on how I was feeling, just a demand as if I were a standing order at the bank. My fingers hovered over the screen for a moment before I typed, each word sharp as ice. "I think Megan can handle it. The house is hers now, right?" I set the phone down and didn't wait for a reply. 10 minutes later, it buzzed again. This time it was my mother. "Rachel, don't do this. We need to talk." I didn't answer. Not because I was angry, not even because I was hurt, but because something inside me had shifted. A kind of ruthless clarity had replaced every fragile hope I used to hold. The kind of clarity that comes not from rage, but from finally seeing things for what they are. For years, I believed that if I gave enough, worked enough, loved enough, my sacrifices would be noticed. But I was wrong. And I had no interest in being anyone's savior anymore. 3 days later, Megan texted me. "You're overreacting. Mom and Dad didn't mean it like that. You've always been independent, and I'm just not. You know that?" I stared at the screen, rereading her words. Always independent. That was their excuse. That I didn't need help, so I didn't deserve fairness. I typed back slowly, each word cutting through the illusion. "Then prove you deserve what you've been given. Start by paying the mortgage." There was no reply. Another week passed. I was sipping coffee in my apartment one morning when my phone buzzed. A transfer request. $2,900 from my mother. No message. Just a sterile, cold request as emotionless as that will. I hit decline without a second thought. A few minutes later she called. I let it ring 4 times, then declined. Her message came through immediately. "Rachel, I know you saw the request. Why did you decline?" I took a deep breath and replied, "Because it's no longer my responsibility. Ask Megan." For the first time in my adult life, I felt control settle into my chest like warm stone. I wasn't the one scrambling to fix the cracks anymore. I wasn't sacrificing myself to keep others afloat. That same day, I called the bank and had my name removed from the joint account. I canceled every auto payment I'd been handling for years: electric, water, internet. I deleted the reminder apps from my phone, like performing a quiet ceremony to close a long chapter. That night, I walked home from work, bought myself a chocolate cake I used to love, but never purchased because something else always came first. I played my favorite playlist while I cleaned the apartment and didn't check my phone once. For the first time in years, I went to sleep without dread clawing at my chest, and when I woke up, I felt something I hadn't in over a decade: lightness. When guilt didn't work, they turned to blame. I hadn't heard from anyone in days. Then Olivia, a coworker from the arts center, sent me a message one afternoon. "Rachel, have you seen your mom's Facebook?" I hadn't. I rarely used mine, but when I logged in and searched for Evelyn Bennett, I found it. A photo of the house, a long caption. "It's heartbreaking when your own daughter turns her back on family, abandoning sick and aging parents in their time of need. After everything we sacrificed for her." Over 80 shares, dozens of comments, some from distant cousins, old church friends, expressing sympathy, outrage, support. Most didn't even know me. Below it, my dad had posted something similar, a grainy photo of the front steps and a caption that read, "We thought Rachel loved us, but when we needed her, she walked away." Then came Megan's post. "Some people are only kind when they're above you. But when you ask them to step down and help, they choose silence. I guess that's what strength looks like these days." I stared at my phone, not angry, not even surprised, just tired. They had rewritten the narrative. But they had forgotten something: I wasn't silent anymore. That evening I opened my laptop, logged into Facebook, and made a single post. No colors, no emojis, just the truth. My family is telling one side of the story, so here's mine. I attached a photo of the will, Megan's name circled in red as the sole beneficiary. I added screenshots of mortgage payments, utility bills, all under my name, and I ended with one line. My silence wasn't consent. I was just waiting for the right moment to speak. That moment is now. Within 10 minutes, comments flooded in. "Rachel, you did all of this? I had no idea. You're one of the kindest people I know. Don't let anyone rewrite your story." Even a few people who had commented on my mom's post came back to apologize. Because the truth wasn't loud, but it was solid. It didn't need drama, it just needed daylight. 2 days after my post, my mother deleted all her public messages. My father deactivated his Facebook account entirely. Megan changed her profile picture to a black and white flower, the vague, dramatic move she always made when things slipped out of her control. I didn't respond. I didn't post anything else. I simply sat on my couch that night, a soft rain tapping the windows, and for the first time, I felt something unfamiliar and powerful: relief. Not revenge, not vindication, just relief. I wasn't waiting anymore, not for an apology, not for recognition, and certainly not for permission to live my own life. Every Monday morning, I headed to the art center and taught a photography class for high school students. watching their eyes light up as they discovered how to frame the world made something inside me glow again. In the evenings, I took a video editing course online, a dream I'd shelved for nearly a decade. And somehow, time began to slow down. I walked through parks without rushing. I went grocery shopping without guilt. I baked on weekends, posted silly pictures of cookies online, and didn't care if anyone thought I was trying too hard. I made new friends, people who didn't know me as the dependable daughter, the family fixer, the responsible one. They just knew me as Rachel. And for the first time in my adult life, that was enough. Across town, the house at 147 Maple Lane was showing signs of wear. The yard hadn't been mowed. The paint on the shutters had begun to peel. Small things, but loud if you knew what to look for. Because the truth was simple, without someone constantly holding things together, things fall apart. And I had finally let go. They always come back, not out of love, out of need. The following week, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my mother. "Rachel, we need to talk. Your sister can't figure out how to pay the internet bill. Can you help?" I didn't reply. 2 days later, the landline was disconnected. She says she can't log in. We're completely lost. I read the message, then walked over to my bookshelf. Tucked behind a stack of photojournals was an old spiral notebook. Inside were years of passwords, billing schedules, customer service numbers, things I used to manage silently while everyone else assumed it would just get done. I held it in my hands for a moment, then quietly placed it back. I wasn't their assistant anymore. I wasn't the invisible scaffolding holding up a crumbling structure. 3 days passed. Then Megan messaged me. "Are you serious? The power's about to be shut off. Are you really going to let that happen to your own family?" I responded with one line. "No, I'm just letting everyone take responsibility for their own choices." Silence. That should have been the end of it. But a few mornings later, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. "Rachel? It's Mrs. Langston. I live next to your parents, have for nearly 20 years. Your mom asked if I knew any realtors. I think they're trying to sell the house. It's not going well." I thanked her and hung up. No satisfaction, no smugness. Just a quiet knowing. Later that afternoon, I received another message, this time from my mother. "Rachel, please. We really need you. The bank is sending someone to assess the property next week. We're out of options." I didn't respond right away. I sat at my window, watching the autumn leaves fall outside in golden spirals. I once believed that this moment, watching them scramble, watching them fall, would bring me peace. But instead, all I felt was a soft, aching fatigue. Because cleaning up after people who never learn, that's a weariness you can't put into words. And I had no interest in going back to that role. 2 days later, Megan showed up at my apartment. She didn't call first, just knocked, standing in a wrinkled hoodie with a stack of paperwork clutched in her arms and panic written all over her face. "Just 5 minutes," she said, her voice breathless. "Please, Rachel, just 5 minutes." I didn't invite her in. I crossed my arms and stood in the doorway. "You here to ask for money?" I asked, not unkindly, but not gently either. "Not money," she said quickly. I need help talking to the bank. I don't understand the terms. I didn't think it would spiral this fast." I raised an eyebrow. "What about the inheritance?" I asked, like I was asking about the weather. She glanced down. "It's tied up in an investment portfolio. If I withdraw now, there's a penalty." I didn't think. I finished the sentence for her. "Exactly. You didn't think." She fell silent. I stepped out and gently pulled the door shut behind me. "This is the lesson, Megan. Everyone stumbles, but no one learns if someone's always there to catch them." Her eyes filled with tears. "You're really going to let them lose the house?" "I'm not letting anything happen," I said. "They made choices, and now they live with them." She stood still as I turned and walked away. 3 days later, I ran into Marcus, an old classmate who now worked in real estate at a community event. "Hey," he said, lowering his voice. "Is your parents' house on Maple Lane? We've seen a few red flags pop up. Sounds like a high-risk foreclosure. It's in bad shape." I nodded. "I know." He looked at me for a long moment, as if waiting for me to say more. I didn't. That night, I sat at my desk, editing photos from my new workshop. I had just finished one of a little boy running down a sunlit trail, pure joy on his face. And I realized that kind of joy had no room for obligation. No space for guilt. Only freedom. Weeks passed. I poured myself into the things that made me feel alive: teaching photography, editing videos, writing again, not reaction posts, but quiet entries on a new blog I started about breaking away from toxic family dynamics. The blog caught on more than I expected. People from all walks of life messaged me, thanking me for putting into words what they had carried silently for years. One person wrote, "I didn't even know I was allowed to walk away. Thank you for showing me I could." Then one rainy evening, while sipping tea at my favorite cafe, I got a notification from a real estate site I used to monitor out of habit. Price drop, 147 Maple Lane, $30,000 off. Urgent sale. I opened the listing. The photos told a story: faded shutters, overgrown lawn, water stains creeping down the ceiling corners. The house looked tired, worn, unloved. Not because it had always been that way, but because the person who had quietly kept it alive for years had finally stopped. And it had no one left who knew how to hold it up. I closed the tab. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel sorrow either. Just a gentle sense of distance, like walking away from a place that no longer fit. A few days later, I received a letter, handwritten, in blue ink, sealed with the same careful cursive I remembered from childhood. It was from my mother. She wrote about sleepless nights, about my father forgetting things more often, about not knowing where to begin again. At the end, she said, "I don't know how much time we have left to fix things, but if you're willing, I'm still here." I didn't rip it up. I didn't cry. I placed it gently in the drawer with old photo negatives and half-finished drafts, things that need time to be understood, but not rushed into. I wasn't angry anymore. I had just let go. I held my first solo exhibit at a local cafe that spring. Photos of ordinary beauty, a cracked teacup beside morning light, a child's hand in an old woman's palm, a lone bird perched on a rusted swing. Afterward, a woman came up to me and said, "Your photos, they feel like they're speaking for someone who never got the chance to say how much it hurt." I smiled, because she was right. I once thought being silent was the cost of being loved. But now I know peace doesn't come from being needed, it comes from choosing yourself. They're still my family, but I'm no longer their foundation. And for the first time in my life, I don't need to be.